content of this video has been extracted from the Moodle plugin development by example course from Moodle Publishing. The next one we're going to look at is the language file. Now, Moodle has support for over 80 languages, and the support is provided by putting the strings information, so any string outputs into language packs. And English, the Australian version, because Moodle was originally developed in Australia, is the default language for code, comments, and documentation. Language files live in the language subdirectory and another subdirectory for the language. So you'll have lang /en/ for the English default language strings. Now, language strings, if you use the English language strings, there's support if you do end up releasing your plugin to the plugins directory. There's some support in translating those language strings, and we'll talk about that at some point later in this course. The file name is basically your plugin's Frankenstyle name .php. So for the authentication plugin that we are going to develop, our language file will live in the auth text file lang en auth _ text file php. Okay, and strings are defined as items of a strings associative array, and the minimum required definition for nearly absolutely all plugins is the string plugin name, which then gives is the name that's used when the plugin is being installed or uninstalled, etc. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit more about the language strings. So in your code, to retrieve a language string, you call getString, the getString function with your string name and your plugin name, so your plugin's Frankenstyle name in the code. So if the code, let's say the site is in Swahili, then what will happen is the code will look in the Swahili language file to get hold of the string. The function printString will just echo the string directly. So get string into a variable, print string, echo it directly. Right. Runtime parameters can be passed for substitution in the string, and they are passed as a third parameter to the get string or print string calls, and it can be a scalar, an array, even an object, and it is normally referred to as the A variable, $A variable. And so then you can then define the variable in your string. So for example, there I've got an example on the screen there. My full name is a full name, and what you have to remember is it's always enclosed in curly brackets for it to work. However, if you are defining a string with that parameter for substitution, the string must be defined in single quotes. Probably best to have single quotes for all your strings, unless it's absolutely necessary, or it's easier to use double quotes. Now would be a good time to just have a deeper look at the string API. So the string language files are part of the string kind of API. And this handles, like I mentioned, in international languages, etc., and provides as well some general string functions. So the functions I spoke about earlier, the getString and its printString, are two of a few wrappers which actually reside within the Moodle lib API for methods provided by the string manager class. So the string manager class has some useful methods. So you can check if a string exists. So you can check if a file or a string exists somewhere. You can also do things like get a list of the countries, a localized list of all countries, get a list of languages, a list of currencies, and you can check if a translation actually exists. The core text class, which kind of falls inside the string API, is a useful class to know as well. So this class is actually specifically developed to handle and deal with UTF-8 text. So it has several static methods familiar to anyone who's a PHP developer that kind of reflect the core Moodle functionality. So you've got things like a sort, string length, string position, to lower, to upper, etc., and substring. So for more information, you can look at the class itself, or you can look at the link, follow the link in this presentation on this page. As mentioned before, the content of this video is an extraction of some of the content from the 12-hour-long lessons from the Moodle plugin development by example course. A link to the course page is in the description, and several regional discounts are available. If this video has been useful and informative, please don't forget to like it, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel for more useful content in the future. If you are so inclined, click the bell notification to be informed when we upload new content. Thank you.